start things off, we should take a look at a post he wrote on Reddit. I bring it up because I believe it gives us the best idea of what to expect from him the further we get into this video. There is so much wrong with a discussion that I feel is long overdue that I'm gonna list every single problem I can find. Please remember this term for later. It's something he frequently misuses when it comes to criticism of Lincoln's siblings who just so happen to be female. I'm not going to focus too much on Lincoln's wrongdoings being discussed, since that's not an issue I have with this post. But I will say this. Timothy isn't wrong to say that having the best intentions doesn't automatically make a person's actions acceptable if others are negatively affected. That said, there is a fundamental difference between making a mistake that results in unintended consequences and deliberately harming others. Here's an example. A person whose negligence causes damage to the environment that nearly results in a town being destroyed might receive less scrutiny than someone who deliberately subjects children to horrific torture. Hopefully, this explains why some people judge the Loud sisters more harshly than their brother, for reasons unrelated to misogyny or Lincoln worship. Next, Mr. Draven implies that hatred toward the Loud sisters is invalid simply because of character growth, or because their worst outings happened a long time ago, an argument I have mocked in the greatness of Lynn Loud Jr. You know who else said that? Carlang238, and badmeme.a had this to say in response to him and anyone else with that kind of attitude. Blue Spider 17 shares the same mindset as well. Let me ask you this, Raven. You do realize character growth doesn't make a character immune to animosity, right? Just look at serial designation V from murder drones, for example. A disassembly drone who slaughtered thousands of worker drones before redeeming herself by fighting alongside Uzi and N to defeat the absolute solver. And as for the whole sisters bad Lincoln good narrative, that's a bit of an oversimplification and flagrant straw man used to smear critics of the Loud sisters, don't you think? Then we get to the massive can of worms that is Mr. Draven's callous dismissal of how wildly disproportionate the family's actions against Lincoln were in No Such Luck, and his attempt to frame Lincoln as the instigator of the conflict, when everything could have been avoided had Lynn Jr. accepted his decision to stay home instead of attending her softball game, and didn't resort to, well,
you asked him to come, to the point of threatening him with a fucking bat!
Imagine the absolute insanity of thinking pretending to be bad luck is even remotely comparable to child abuse. Mr. Animated Toon has more common sense than you. And this isn't the only time Timothy has done this. If I addressed any of the examples of Lincoln's wrongdoings above, I would be reiterating the same argument I made earlier. So for now, I'll hyper-focus on a specific claim Raven has made. He denies that the Louds were ever in physical danger in any of the April Fool's episodes, but I'll list several examples that contradict his claim. Remember when Lincoln set off all the pranks and traps in the house to save Ronnie Ann from them? Actually, scratch that. He wasn't just trying to save her, but his family too. Seriously, do you know how vicious raccoons are? And sure, his folks still got pranked in the end, but at least they didn't go through hell like Lincoln did, who was mostly successful in his goals. Heck, even before the events of that episode took place, Lewin shaved the pet's fur and feathers off, which could have left them vulnerable to hypothermia or sunburns. Or should I mention the time when Lenny was knocked back by an inflatable clown, causing her to land on a motel sign covered with flypaper when a number of things could have gone wrong in the event that the trap malfunctioned, or if she had been standing only a few inches away from the precise spot Luann intended for her to be before it even activated. She could have landed on the street and broken a bone at best, or gotten run over by any random vehicle that may so happen to pass by at worst. And before you use the Lewin planned it all out and tested it beforehand excuse, even the best plans can go awry. Or how about when Lana fell into a pit of pies filled with rhubarb, which she has an allergic reaction to? I can tell you from experience that allergic reactions are no fun to deal with. Oh, how about when Rita's intervention saved Lily from being smothered beneath a large pile of laundry, which could have posed a suffocation hazard for a 15-month-old for the record? And if that's not enough, what about when Lucy got soaked in bleach, which can cause difficulty breathing, burn your skin, and even take away your eyesight for a period of time, or possibly for life? And need I even mention Lynn Loud Jr. getting attacked by a monkey? Animals that can, transmit diseases? Keep in mind, all of this happened in a single night, and I know Raven is going to shriek that it's a cartoon. Right, the same cartoon that gave us scenes like this, and this. Lincoln may have more instances of doing wrong than his family, and some of his worst outings resulted in far more severe consequences. But the reason some people don't hold it against him as much as his folks is because while his worst outings are a result of carelessness, theirs could be considered far more malicious and cruel by comparison. That's not to say Lincoln has never acted that way himself. Does that answer your question? Thereafter, Timothy uses scare quotes around Lincoln fans when discussing their dislike of LJ's nickname for her brother, Stinkin', implying that anyone who finds it annoying or criticizes it in any way isn't a true fan of his. This is the same kind of crap with the flow pulled when she used scare quotes around the word forced in the context of NSL, implying that LJ didn't actually coerce her brother into attending her game, only to contradict herself literally one sentence later. Near the end of his post, I found several issues worth addressing. Firstly, there is no such thing as a time limit for when making content based on a piece of media is no longer socially acceptable. Secondly, he selectively attributes most of the problems within the fandom, or any content he personally dislikes, to Lincoln fans while turning a blind eye to anyone else capable of doing the same. Thirdly, I thought earlier when you critiqued Lincoln, you said intent doesn't matter if people are negatively affected by one's actions. You can't just say that while simultaneously calling people out for ignoring the intent behind the sister's actions. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you're the one applying gendered double standards. You know, the very thing you accused his defenders of? Oops. Speaking of which, fourth, my guy, even if Lincoln and his sister's genders were swapped, my stance wouldn't change. So maybe leave gender out of the discussion when others evaluate different levels of wrongdoing, okay, sunshine? And fifth, how hysterically ironic is it that the same man who condemns hostility and harassment engages in that very behavior, as you will all bear witness to shortly. However, there is some merit to be found in this post, namely when he doesn't misuse the term misogyny while defending Lori Loud. If only he would use the term correctly more often. I hope you enjoyed the brief praise I gave Raven, because he only gets worse from here on out.